Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, wherever you're joining us from. We hope that you're safe. My name is Gaurav Shekhar, and I'm the program director of the Business Analytics Flex and Online program here at UT Dallas. My camera has decided to not be with me this morning for a variety of reasons, so I'll be audio only today, but definitely we are here for your questions and we are here to tell you about the program. The format of today's webinar is going to be just like the ones that we've had in the past. I'll quickly talk about the program and then we'll just jump into your questions because those questions are important to us. And we know that a lot of you have several questions out there for us. So we'll get to that as soon as we can. We're talking about the business analytics program. It is almost a 7-year-old program that is in the School of Management here at UT Dallas. We are the largest graduate program in the School of Management, and not only in the School of Management, but of any other business analytics program around the US, we are the largest in terms of the number. Now, a lot of times we get this question that, is our large number a problem? And absolutely not, because things like our curriculum, having the largest curriculum offerings of any comparable program, that is something that we are very proud of. Just to give perspective to that, it's a 36 credit hour program where half of your degree, which is core classes, but then the other half, which is 6 courses of electives, you have more than 70 choices to pick courses from. And that can only happen because of our large size here in the school. The different tracks that you can pursue ranges from data science, data engineering, cybersecurity analytics, social media analytics, healthcare analytics, accounting analytics, financial analytics. You think about a domain, you think about an area that can have analytics, and we do have a course around it. Now, the coursework is available in multiple formats. The first being the Flex format. And Flex is what a traditional on-campus program is, where most of the classes are on campus. And I'm just talking about a regular semester, a non-COVID semester. And come fall 21, we are going there. By the way, in this time when I'm speaking, if you have questions or you already have those ready, put them in the chat because we would be taking those questions from the chat and we'll answer them as we go along. Now, so talking about our Flex program, this is on campus, most of the classes, 90% I would say, 10% of the classes are in the traditional, fully asynchronous online setting, which means they're pre-recorded lectures and all. Then we have 2 other formats. One is Cohort, which is, so out of the 10 tracks that Flex has, we've taken 2 tracks, kind of replicated them for a different experience, but it's the same courses. And that's what we call the on-campus cohort. And then finally, the fully online version that we have. Again, in terms of rankings, whichever agency ranks us, we are in the top business analytics programs across the country and across the world as well. But one of the things that we really take a lot of pride in is the fact that our students, the average salaries that they make is in the range of $95,000 to $100,000, and that's the average. And remember, we are talking about a very large business analytics program, and still, despite the fact that we have some big numbers graduating from the program, we still have a lot of great people who are getting those packages. I mean, just to put some numbers, this spring, which means in the next week, we'll have 314 students that will graduate from the program, making us the largest class for this year that is graduating. The placement rate also is in the 90s and has been in the 90s for the last 2-3 years when we talk about the first 3. In 6 months, which is the benchmark, the new benchmark for most of the universities in the US, anybody and everybody who's seeking a placement or a job gets a job. Same things are seen at the internship level as well, where more than 600 internships were pursued last year with about 350 companies. And this is all over the US. Now, yes, a large number of them are on the East Coast, around the New York area, the West Coast and the California region, and then Texas, which has been the fastest growing economy in the US has seen a lot of growth. Texas, I would say, accounts for most of the jobs that we have here on campus because, again, it's a very booming area. Cities like Dallas, where we are, Dallas, Fort Worth Metroplex, or Austin or Houston are some of the epicenters of job markets and very niche areas. And it's not that the specialty for these places is just technology. It is anything and everything, and that's why I call Texas really the crossroads of the U.S. economy right now because of all the kinds of jobs that are out here. The students get paid handsomely even for an internship, and generally the formula for an internship pay versus a full-time pay is 2:1. So if you're earning $1 as an intern, you earn $2 as a full-time professional, and that also is comparable to what our students are earning in the program. But at this point of time, one of the things that we want to press on is the fact that our program, whether it is for our domestic students or for our international students, and this is just not the program, but the university itself, has always found ways to support our students. And that's where I wanted to emphasize that a lot of you who are probably trying to come to the US in the next 2 semesters, summer or fall, and are having challenges in traveling to the US, we are diligently right now working to find solution to how we can make sure that we have classes for you. Now, come May 12th, and you should have already received an invite if you're an admitted student, that Dean Monica Powell, our program directors, and our advising team would be on a webinar to talk about course enrollments. They'll be talking about things like your holds. And in most of the cases, your holds would be removed by the 3rd week of May. They will talk about the exact dates as to when that will happen. But May 12th webinar, that will give you more clarity about what your options are. In fact, we will talk about the exact classes that are being offered in the program that you can get enrolled in while you are preparing to come. Now, if you're a domestic student, you're right here, and that won't be a problem. You can join in any modality that you can.
So we can't see your screen. Are you sharing the screen?
I am not sharing my screen. That's the challenge this morning. But I'm going to take all the questions, and I'm going to make sure that this recording is you guys. In case you are not on hold, on mute, can you please go ahead and mute yourself? Let me see. I'm getting a lot of feedback here. All right. So, well, that was about the program. Let's get started with your questions here. So feel free to put them in the chat, and I'm going to start taking them one by one. So we have one question here. Can we start registration of classes if all our holds are removed, or we need to do that in consultation with the grad advisor? Now, that's a very good question. The way the holds work is the purpose of the holds is to tell you that there is something which is incomplete and needs your attention. So it could be either you attending an orientation, or it could be you submitting your documents, or it could be you doing a TB test, whatever it is. Those holds stop you from, and the best way to let you know about it is to put that hold so that when you try to register, it tells you that, okay, there's something pending that you need to address before you get into the classes. In the next 2 weeks, the objective of the program is to get you all into your classes and at least make you eligible for that. So let's say that you have a TV test hold, or you have a graduate advising hold, which on your screen will say cannot register online, see a graduate advisor. All those kind of holds will be taken care of in the 3rd week of May, which will make everybody eligible to get into the classes. More details about how do you exactly register and all will be shared during the May 12th webinar. Another thing is, if you are following our social media, or if you just go to the Jinzal website and navigate to the YouTube section, you will find that there is a lot of great videos about how do you enroll yourself into classes, how do you drop classes, how you swap classes, add them to your schedule, etc. Those kind of things are there. They are short videos, very informational videos. But once your holds are removed, as a graduate student, you have the right to go and register yourself, provided you have met the pre-requirements for each of the prerequisites for each of the classes, or if there are any core requisites, you have met them. Another thing is, let's say that there was a prereq or a core-req that was waived for you, and you can get into the class. That also will require some help from the advisor, because that's the only scenario where you cannot really go and register yourself. But I would say 90% of the classes that are out there, once your holds are removed, you can self-register. All right, so I think I missed a few questions here, but let me go back. So Gmat and Gre waiver is applicable to you all if you're applying for summer or fall of 21. All you have to do is just simply apply and send an email to our graduate advising team, which is jsomadvising@utdallas.edu, asking them for a waiver. It takes the committee about a week or 10 days to get back to you, but they will tell you whether they need a GRE or not, or a GMAT or not. And mostly what happens is that they look at your undergrad transcripts and make a determination that if you were to take this test, would you be successful and have the minimum score that is required to be in the program. Having said that, there's no minimum number at which we can point our fingers and say that, okay, if you get that number, you are into the program. We have seen people with relatively average GRE scores get into the program, and there are people with very high GRE scores also not getting into the program. So remember, there is no one thing that sets your whole profile. We look at your profile very holistically. In terms of the scholarships available, well, the scholarships that are there in the program, the deadline was May 1st for fall 21. However, if you're planning to apply for spring 22, we still have time for that you can go ahead and apply for scholarships. But if you're applying and you have asked for a GRE or GMAT waiver, remember, we will need a GRE score or a GMAT score, and we want the official scores to be sent back to the committee before the deadline, the regular deadline for application. From a financial standpoint, the kind of institutions that our students avail educational loans from, a lot of them, either you do it from your local bank, or there are some third-party non-banking financial institutions like Prodigy Finance or GradRight or Avance or Empower. And what they do is they have some very attractive rates of interest. Again, it depends on your profile, but what they will do is that they will give you a loan, most of which is dispersed here in the US in most of the cases. I mean, I know for a fact that people like Empower and Prodigy do that you get your loan right here in the US, which helps you save some money on the conversion costs. When you convert it from another currency to USD, you lose some money sometimes. So you save on that, and plus the rate of interest also is very competitive. Considering COVID, can you fly in mid-semester? Well, that's another thing that you can start in the second 8 weeks. So every long semester, which is 16 weeks, is split into first 8 weeks and second 8 weeks. If you cannot do it in the first half, then definitely you can travel in the second half. And more information about this will be given to you on May 12th, because we will have Josephine Vita, our director of the ISSO, who will talk about this. I received my scholarship after getting an I-20 to get an updated. When do I need to reapply again? Well, you can just simply request your I-20, and this time when they send it to you, it will have the information about your scholarship. Now, I would recommend everybody to wait for a week once you get your scholarships, because it takes about a week for the school to send the information to ISSO or to ISSO to update their records. So generally about 5 business days. Chances of getting a TARAs in spring, you don't have scholarship because of non. Well, again, we hire about 35 to 40 TAs. And again, that can change, but it can go up, it can go down as well. But let's say about 30. And that is only in our department, which is the business analytics ITM department. The school hires even more TAs. The chances, I would not talk about chances, but I will probably talk about what can really help you become a TA. See, first of all, the TA ship is something where it's a mix of your technical skills and it's a mix of your, I would say, your skills to manage people. Because every TA gets to work with about close to 100 to 150 students. So managing those students, their expectations, you have office hours and stuff. And then you have your own coursework because every TA has to be a full-time student. So you have your own coursework, your own stuff. So it's a game of mental agility in a lot of ways. Plus, on top of it, your proficiency with your course. So the bare minimum would be to do very well in the classes that you have taken. Again, your TA-ship, we appreciate the experience you have, but honestly, for a TA-ship, we don't look at that primarily. We look at the coursework that you have taken. We look at how you have done in those classes. Definitely, whichever class that we want to assign you for, we want you to get an A in that. In the department, minimum GPA of 3.4 is needed to even be considered for a TA-ship. But after that, we do talk to students. We find out whether they are the right fit or not. There'll be a short interview, and then we decide whether the person would be able to take care of the students or not. So how well you have done in your coursework, how good you are with your time management, etc., your communication skills, simple things like how actively do you respond to emails. We can't have a TA who never looks at the emails because all the students would contact you through the email. So those kind of things. Do we need to take special permissions to opt for courses outside the BA but within JSOM? I read. Oh, you don't need to do that. You actually can take any of the courses that are offered by JSOM during the program. Try to make sure that they're somewhere related to your degree, but you don't need any special permission. When your degree is finally audited, we will just simply count those 2 courses that you have taken outside of the program as your open electives. Sai, you actually asked a very good question. Does our scholarship still remain in place if we decide to defer to spring? No. Unfortunately, if you defer, the only thing that is guaranteed is admission. Once your deferral request is accepted, it is only your admission that is guaranteed. The scholarship, again, you'll have to apply. Can any light be shed on the data of graduating students, percentage of students placed, the tracks are? Okay, well, that's a good question. Again, right now, the latest data that we have and that we are still in the process of wrapping our heads around is fall of 20. And just like any other semester, we have had a 90% plus rate of placement in the first 3 months. The packages also have been in the 90s. We've still not completed our numbers with all of the students that place because it takes time sometimes for students to report those numbers. They might have got a job, but we don't have the data. But it kind of again is looking in the same range of 90s and 100Ks that we have seen in the last 2-3 years. In fact, that has kind of been one of the things that has remained the same. That our average salaries, the base salary, without any bonuses and all, has been somewhere in the late 80s, and then on top of it, your signing bonus or your maybe an year end bonus. So the first year's compensation is about 100K. 95 to 100 is a better range, and this isn't just an average that we have. In terms of tracks, a lot of our students tend to go for the data engineering, data science track. That is the most popular ones that we have. But then we are seeing a gravitation towards cybersecurity analytics. We are seeing a gravitation towards decision and operational analytics. There's always courses from different tracks that people end up taking, just because maybe there is one course in a track that is very popular. So fintech, for example, is a very good example. With the kind of courses coming up in fintech and blockchain, maybe that one course becomes very popular. But in terms of how many tracks really see a lot of students taking most of the courses, I would say it is mostly around data science and data engineering. Prakhar, there's a task for me in the to-do list. It says review and agree to program terms, JSON, MS program. When I click, it shows connection timeout. Will this be a hindrance for me in terms of registering for classes? Prakhar, I would recommend sending a screenshot of what you're seeing exactly, because it could be a system issue as well. When you're not able to connect, mostly is a system issue. Can international students register prior to reaching to US? Absolutely, you can. And that's what we will extensively talk about on May 12th, that how you can register for classes even before you can come, and exactly what classes are available, when you can register for them, and in terms of when you can come and be a part of those classes here. I mean, if you're trying to, let's say, come in the middle of the semester, in the second 8 weeks, how does that work out? Those will be the things to be talked about. Are they going to be in-person classes even if, well, Tushar, we will have in-person classes because think about it this way. Our international students definitely are a big population for us, but generally speaking, most of the students that are supposed to be here are here in the US. The population is here. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to see how we can extend our classes. And there are different means that I again want to reserve it until May 12th. But there are means through which we are making sure that our students who are not able to come here in person to the US are still able to attend those classes. But yes, we are going to have in-person classes in fall. Now, again, between now and fall, if something majorly changes, then that's a different thing. Then again, just like last year, we'll have to go into combat mode and do something about it. Sai Krishna, I answered that question just a few minutes ago. Can we continue our job in case we are going for online classes? Naman, I'm not very sure what do you mean about that. If you're asking if you can continue your job in your own home country while you're doing online classes. So again, if you're not here in the US, there are no issues with regards to your work eligibility. And the eligibility only applies to whatever your home country allows you. So you can definitely continue your job and then attend those classes. You can always defer to spring of 22. In fact, you can defer by one full academic year if you want to. So if you've got a fall 21 admit and you want to defer, you can do that. But I would not recommend doing that right away. Wait on. Check out your choices that will be revealed on May 12th. See what choices are there, what courses are there, and how you can attend, and then make a very same decision about whether you want to defer or not. Especially if you have a scholarship, I would strongly recommend not to do that, because if you defer, there is no guarantee that you'll get that scholarship again. And the scholarship depends on the pool that we have. Every time that pool can be different. Maybe a score that got you a scholarship may not be competitive enough in another pool. Now, there might be a question about deferring if, let's say, you've already deferred it once for the whole year and this is the second time. Send an email to jsomgr advising. It's one word, jsomgr advising at utdallas.edu requesting if they can, again, help you defer. But give a strong reason why you're asking to defer. Okay, P asks the question, if I defer my admission by 1 year, what will happen to the scholarship? Yes, you have to reapply. Anurag, what's the maximum time limit for completion of in Flex Cohort? By the way, Anurag, there's nothing called Flex Cohort. The Flex program and the Cohort program are separate. The maximum time that you have for any degree at UT Dallas is 76 years. And having said that, the quickest you can finish the business analytics program is 9 months, 2 long semesters, and you're done. But that is something that we don't recommend. That's a lot of courses that you'll be taking in a very short amount of time. And one of the things that is important here as a student is the fact that you are participating in activities, because a lot of things that you do outside the classroom is very important, not only for your development, but also for you to network, find a good job, etc. Most of our students take 3 to 4 long semesters to complete their program. Vashisht, can you elaborate on the program outcomes in terms of both jobs and internships? Absolutely. And again, I encourage all of you to go to our Business Analytics Flex website. And when you do that, the under internships and career outcomes, we have a very detailed report of what titles students have, what companies they have worked for, what are the average salaries, etc. All that kind of stuff. But as I said, 600 internships last year with about 350 employers. And the placement has been in the 90s for the first 3 months. In the first 3 months, that's how we look at it. Most of the institutions in the US are going for the 6 months route, that they are tracking their placements in the 6 month cycles. Well, when it comes to 6 months, anybody and everybody who's looking for a job gets a job. SRS, yes, you can. You can fly midway. As of now, yes, you can. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty about how the surge would be, or how the flattening of the curve would be, or how soon people will be able to go back and get their visas and all. But there is always a possibility of you traveling in the middle of the semester. One of the things that I like about the way UT Dallas really handled the response last year, and again, we are continuing with that this year, is that we very proactively look at all these different elements of, okay, if you don't have the ability to travel, or when is the earliest you can travel, or what is the latest that you can travel, etc., to help you understand your options. Kevna, as an international student, we would be able to remove the TB test only once we reach there. Well, that's again another thing that will be discussed, but yes, those holds will be removed so that you can register for classes. Contact person in DS 160, you can put the name of the student advisor, the international ISSO advisor whose name is there on the contact form. Sorry, the I-20. Saul, I applied for the on-campus apartment on 9 April and wonder when the results of the apartment. Well, it takes time, and it generally takes about a few months before they get back to you. But housing would be the best place to answer that. You can simply send an email to housing@utdallas.edu and they should be able to help you. My application is pending graduate committee. How long does it take? Well, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks once you have submitted your application and we have all your paperwork in place. And by paperwork, I mean your letter of recommendation should have reached to us. Your unofficial transcript should be with us. In case you have your GRE or Gmat waiver request, that should have been approved. So all those kind of things, put all of that into consideration, and it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. But if it is pending graduate committee, I would say in less than 10 days, you should have it. the result. So that we have been working on a lot of options where we can allow people to remotely attend classes and still be able to continue with the education even if they're not able to travel, and kind of have that opportunity that as soon as they're able to travel, they can come here and then attend classes in the normal setting. May 12th webinar with Dean Powell, our ISSO director, Josephine Vita, are advising, and the program directors will talk about that. Now, in case you have not got an invite for it, please send me an email and I'll make sure that that invite is sent out to you. But that invite was sent out this Monday, I believe. So check for your email. If not, then just simply reach out to me. India has started giving vaccine for people above 18. Which COVID vaccine is preferred by the university? We don't tell you what we prefer. And again, we are not mandating vaccination. It's up to you which one you want to take. And this is something which I believe you should talk to your doctor rather than anybody else if you really want to compare vaccines, because a lot of things matter when you take a vaccine, and honestly none of us would be giving any kind of advice on that. For the university, again, we hope that vaccination on campus is available in fall 21. Right now, anybody who needs a vaccine, whether it's a student, staff, or faculty, is getting it on campus. We are not sure about fall 21, but hopefully we should have something that in case you travel down and you need a vaccine, you can get that. But we have not issued any kind of statement about what we prefer. So decide for yourself. Talk to your doctor. That would be the best person to help you with that. Does our scholarship still remain in place if we defer? No, it will not. You'll have to apply again. Is the Indian vaccine acceptable? Any quarantine rules? Well, once you are here in the US, you will, or before you, again, let's say that you come here and there is a vaccine available that you can take, you'll have to still quarantine yourself for 3 to 5 days. And again, that might change later on. So keep an eye on the university's COVID page, because that's where we post all these updates. See, again, a lot of this is evolving. The situation is developing, and there could be relaxation in some cases. There could be more restrictions in some areas. So keep abreast with the announcements that the university sends out. In fact, the ISSO sends out this weekly update. And I think that you should keep an eye on what they're talking about, vaccination or any kind of stuff that related to quarantine and all. Remember, we follow the CDC guidelines. So whatever CDC tells us, we go with that. Praveen, can we choose classes from some other program? Yeah, absolutely, Praveen, you can do that. In fact, a lot of classes that we have in the business analytics program, we also cross-list them with programs like ITM or supply chain or management science. So if it's a cross-listed class, it is considered as a business analytics class. If it is not, and it is just offered by another program, up to 6 credit hours, you can take those classes. And 6 credits is 2 courses. Unfortunately, if you have missed the deadline for the scholarship, the committee cannot accept it at this point of time. But what I would recommend is, and to everybody who's there, if you have missed out on a scholarship, it's not the end of the road. There is a second year scholarship. So as a continuing student, you can apply every fall. Or in the second semester, you can even apply for a TA-ship. And honestly, if none of these options work out, we have had students who were good students, really good students, did not have a TA-ship, did not have a scholarship, but they got really great internships. So something or the other will work out for you. But don't feel that if you don't have a scholarship or you don't have a TA-ship or anything here, it's a big problem. It's not a problem. You have something or the other that works out very well. And again, you can always apply to be a student worker as soon as you are here in the US. It's an hourly job. You can work up to 20 hours, but a lot of students do that too. And that helps them financially. Prakhar, my attested cert transcript and degree certificate have been delivered to UTD 2 days ago. How long does it? Well, Prakhar, given the amount of transcripts and stuff that our department is getting right now, the admissions team, and the way they're processing it, give it a week. Leela, considering the current situation, if we start online, do we have a limit on the number of courses we take? Well, so one of the elements to look into this is while you have your visa or you don't have your visa, what are the restrictions there? And I would defer it to Josephine to explain it in a very uh, clear and concise fashion as to what your options are with online courses. But just from experience, if you're not here in the US and there is no limitation on the visa that applies to you, you can take any number of classes. Where will the scholarship status be reflecting in Galaxy portal or something else? Well, one place is where you applied for your scholarship. You can go back to that portal and you can see where it is. The other one is you go to even Galaxy, and Galaxy will have an update on your scholarship. Now, some of you might be seeing it already. If let's say you got a scholarship way early in January or December, um, some of you who have recently got it, it takes time to update it there. But on the scholarship portal where you applied for the Dean's Excellence Scholarship, definitely that status will be there. Noel, how soon or how late can we choose a track? And would we need a decent Windows laptop for the in-person classes? So Noel, again, you don't declare a track. Nobody says that I'm taking courses on the data science track. You just simply take a course. The tracks are more like they're recommendations that what kind of courses can you take. And that's it. Maybe it's not like that your degree will reflect the track that you have taken. You'll still get the same degree, MS in Business Analytics. That's it. Tracks, whatever tracks you choose, you can put it on your resume that you're pursuing coursework in a certain concentration. But that's pretty much it. You don't have to declare anything. You would definitely need a good Windows laptop, and I say that because every now and then, you might end up in a class which requires a software which has good hardware requirements. So something which has a decent graphics card, something which has we do a lot of things in the cloud. As a UT Dallas student, you get box storage up to 1 TB for free. But your primary memory, at least go for 16 GB of RAM. Those kind of things is what is important. Make sure that you have a decent operating system. If you have been on an old version of Windows, let's say Windows 7 or Windows 8, just update it. Make sure you have Windows 10. But that's just a recommendation. Again, most of the softwares work, but why do you want to be stuck in the trouble where you have old, outdated hardware or softwares? Rather than that, go for something. And by the way, in the US, November, you have the Black Friday, all these sales around Thanksgiving. So a lot of students end up buying some very decent laptops at a very affordable price. All right, so Charan, I'm looking at your question here. You have a missing document hold. Yes, so again, simply email jsomgr@UT Dallas and give them an explanation of why you are requesting this exception. Tell them, is your university shut down or they've not released the results, etc. And we do make exceptions. We do look at whatever we have in cases we feel we can, and then we go from there. So please absolutely have that sent over. When are we going to know if you're accepted into the Fall 21 program? Well, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks once you have applied. And all you have to do is, if you want a GRE waiver or a Gmat waiver, simply after application, send an email to jsomgradvising. One word, jsomgradvising@utdallas.edu. Could the university provide us with an emergency appointment request letter that want to book a F1 visa? Currently, normal slots are not available. Well, again, it's a good question, but honestly, if you're going for August, right now is not the window in which the emergency falls. So again, you have to justify it with the consulate. Why is this an emergency? And right now, if you're going for August, let's say, first of all, you cannot enter the United States before 30 days from the start of your classes. So August 23rd is when we start. July 23rd is when you can come in early, the earliest. We're still in May, so that will not work out. But in the past, we have issued letters to students who have been requesting emergency appointments, and if it is needed, we can do that. What courses should we prefer to enroll in? I am glad, Riddhi, you asked that question. So the way to look at it is some of our main courses are business analytics with R, database foundations, and advanced statistics for data science. These are the three courses that students generally take in the first semester for a variety of reasons. They are core classes, and it's not that you have to take core first and then later elective, but these are prereqs for a lot of other courses. So the quicker you're done with your prereqs, the better it is. And remember, you have to do your prereqs before you take a class. So those are the three that we recommend. But apart from that, if there is a course which doesn't have a prereq, for example, there is a latest class on robotic process automation that we brought out this spring, and it's coming out as BOAN 6385. If you want to take that class, I teach that class, it has no prereq. If you want to take that class in the first semester, by all means, you can do that. But we tell students at least to take the stats class for sure, and at least one of the two, whether it's BA with R or it is database foundations. Does the provisional degree certificate suffice for removing the hold? It should, if that is all that you have. I have my degree and mark sheet is tested by a faculty. Well, your faculty is not the one who is issuing that. So your degree or your transcript has to be attested by the degree issuing institution or the transcript issuing institution. It cannot be done by a notary or a faculty. It has to be somebody who is issuing it. So your registrar, for example, is the one who attests that. What is JSOM looking for in candidate essays? Partho, very good question. So why do you really want to pursue this degree, and how does that degree really factor into your future plans? Are essentially two the other things that we're looking into. But what we want is from your essay that you're somebody who has a plan. You're not somebody who's just applying to our program without even knowing that where this program stands for you or what it can do for you. So giving us some kind of insight into what got you to this point that you're applying to us and how this will help you in your journey is what we're looking for. Can we defer from fall 21 to spring 22, and we'll have to wait till? No, again, deferment has to happen before the start of classes. If we hit the start of classes, then you cannot defer. So, and don't defer it too much in advance. See how the situation unfolds. If you are looking to come down to the US, you have to see how your cases go down and how soon the appointments are available. And then probably if nothing is working out in the way that you expected it to, and you're not wanting to take online classes, you want the whole in-person experience, then just defer it right before the semester starts. However, having said that, last year everybody who started the fall semester online, 100% of them were on campus in spring. So don't just defer because we you wanted that 100% in person experience. Again, I understand that in-person experience is what your primary choice would be, but given the time, if you have to take some classes in a remote setting, in an online setting for a few months or even for a semester, it's worth it to at least get started. For the students who are admitted in both Flex and Cohort, do they have to decline one of? Absolutely. So you have to uh, decline one of the admits, whether it is Flex or Cohort. Can we take can we take off-campus part-time jobs? Or will, first of all, anything that you do here, and if you are an international student, you are not allowed to work even for an hour on a job that is not authorized by the ISSO. When you say off-campus jobs, well, internships are off-campus mostly, uh, but that has to be approved. Even if it is an approved internship, and let's say, I'm just taking an example, it ends on May 10th. You can't go and say that, oh, I'm just working for another couple of days and then I'll wrap it up. Every date has to be approved. Every minute of your job has to be approved. So part-time work which is not approved off campus is illegal if you're doing that. Okay. Does scholarship of the university separate from FAFSA? Yes, FAFSA, again, if you want to go for FAFSA, that's different. Our financial aid office helps with that. That financial aid is different from what our school offers as a scholarship. So and we have a great team in financial aid. If you want to reach out to them on the email, it's FinAid, FINAID, finaid@utdallas.edu. Kumbar, I submitted my application and sent this course on April 30th. And how many days should I expect? 2 to 3 weeks. What is the batch size of the program? Fall and spring. Or every fall, we see about 300 to 400 students. I mean, a normal fall, not the COVID fall, but 300 to 400 students in the program. And then spring would be about 100 to 150. Summer would see about 20, 30 students. If you're not able to enter the US in July, August, then will we get I-20? Absolutely, you can do that in the mid of October. And again, what exactly is the process? That is going to be discussed. Does the Mars affect Dean's Excellence Scholarship? Not quite sure about it, but Rafael, I'll get back to you with that response. Vineet, I have missed the window to submit. Okay, we talked about this. It's May 1, unfortunately. That's a hard deadline for us. Your application and your scores should have been with us. Official scores. Sai, I've submitted all my documents. Well, you should get it in about 3 to 10 business days. For sure, I'm a fall 20 deferred student last year. Initially, it was told that UTD would call us to semester, but later in July, we got informed that it was against. Well, Tushar, again, the way it changed was that it wasn't illegal to come. Again, I think this is, and if you want to have this discussion with me so that I can put you in touch with some of the ISSO folks to really explain this, it is not that you cannot come mid-semester. As of now, what we have been told by ISSO is that it is possible for students to come in mid-semester if they want to do in the second 8 week. What probably would have happened last year is that they would have recommended you to not come if you're not in a class, which is at least one class, which is face-to-face. Probably that is what they would have told you. But May 12th is when we have our ISSO director, Josephine Vita, who will specifically talk about how students can come in the middle of the semester. Do recipients of Dean's Excellence Scholarship have lesser chances of getting a TA-ship? We don't try to double dip students. So if you got the Dean's Excellence, we probably will not pick you up for a TA-ship. Now, I won't say that that's not done. In case there's one candidate only that is out there. It's a rare case, but if it's only one candidate who has a scholarship, then we eventually end up picking that person. But we try to not double dip it because we want to spread the benefit of the in-state tuition. Are there any practical exposure in terms of assignments? And absolutely. In fact, we have a lot of group projects that help you with stuff. I'll just take an example of my RPA class that I teach. So the final project was a hackathon, which was sponsored by KPMG. And KPMG also used it as a recruiting opportunity to see how students are. But they gave a statement They helped with their advisors to help the students in building the application. And then at the end of the day, it was KPMG who judged it as well. And you got to work with KPMG folks in understanding what creating the application. All they gave was a use case. So how do you go from a problem statement to a solution is what they helped with. And that's not just one class. There are a lot of classes that have that kind of element in it. What's the total cost of the program? Depends on how many credits you're taking every semester. If you're in the flex program, the more credits you take, your per credit hour cost goes down. So the number of credits you take, if you have a scholarship or if you have a TA-ship, all that will help you understand. I applied for the Dean's Scholarship 4 weeks ago and haven't received any result. By when could the final results be out? Well, if you applied it 4 weeks ago, give it some time, because if everything was received before May 1st, including your application, your official scores, the committee is still reviewing applications and they would get back to you. But the hard deadline for everybody is somewhere around mid-July. If you've not heard by mid-July, then possibly not. If you start online, how many courses can you take? Well, if it is independent of your F1 visa, you can take as many as you want. But again, that question will be answered during the webinar on May 12th. And by the way, folks, a lot of these questions that I'm seeing here today, I am actually going to communicate this to Dean Powell and Josephine in advance. I know for a fact that they are covering a lot of these areas, but just in case, just to give them a heads up as to what kind of questions you all are asking for. If I received a scholarship and can I apply for TA-ship? Well, do apply. Don't shy away from applying. You know, the thing is, you don't get double benefit on the in-state tuition. And again, we cannot hire you as a TA. Let's say that we end up with you being the only candidate, you know, somebody who's suitable to be a TA and already has a scholarship. We will go that route. We try to avoid that double dipping, but if we have to go the route to hire you as a TA and you have a scholarship, the only way we cannot hire you is if you have not applied. Which track is most payable? That all depends on how you do. Again, data science is a popular track, a lot of people say, but sometimes we have people from cybersecurity making those 200Ks. So it all depends on how you really use the skill sets that you have earned in the program and go and work on jobs. I'll be honest about one thing. There is no one silver bullet that will help you. We cannot tell you do these 4 things and they'll end up in a certain outcome. Why? Because a lot of it depends on your hard work, what you're putting into the program. How are you going out and marketing yourself? Let's say you take some of the courses which are very much in demand, and then in terms of your networking, you do absolutely nothing. Well, if you don't network, you will not really meet people, and you probably will not end up meeting somebody who might be a great colleague to work with in the future. So it all depends on the kind of stuff that you are doing. Well, again, the classes are still going to be in the same format that our president announced a few weeks ago. And that's the same thing. Most of us are going back to traditional classes. We might have extensions for, not might, but we will have extensions for our students who are not in the US to take those classes remotely. So there will definitely be an on-campus element to it, and we'll have our students out there. And then, there will be people who'll be joining us from remotely. Now, remember, not everybody is there who has not got a visa. There's a sizable chunk of people who've got their visas. And right now, the travel ban also says that if you're traveling out if your classes start after August 1, you can travel to the US. So we do see a good number of our students coming here as well. But yes, we do understand that there is a sizable chunk who has not got a visa appointment yet. And for them, there will be an online element. The bottom line is, if you want to take a course in fall 21, we will make it happen for you. What's the last day to submit the tuition fee? Well, the tuition is not due until August, somewhere close to your census day, which is early September and late August, is when your tuition is due. If your visa gets canceled, you don't get a refund. Remember that. What you owe to the university, you owe to the university. Even though your visa and your classes are kind of related, but honestly, they are separate things. And as I said, the people who joined us remotely in fall 20, they got their visas. They were here in the US the next semester. Now, in cases when a visa gets rejected, there could be a lot of different things that can affect. And the number one thing is, you are getting this visa to come and study. If you give any kind of hint to the visa officer that you're using this visa to migrate to the country, now that's a big no-no. And that is one of the top reasons why people, or the fact that you don't have enough funds to really support your education. There's no proof that the funds that you have showed is good enough. So you have to have that plan. Or another thing is when people go for visa interviews and they have no clue about the program. I'm not saying that it happens with our students, but generally, if you cannot answer basic questions as to what your coursework looks like, or what is the university like, or do you even know some of the professors, do you know who teaches what class, awareness is important. And if there is lack of awareness, that can result into cancellation. Is there a time limit to accept admission? There's no time limit, but I would recommend doing it ASAP. The thing is, there's no cost to it. There's no seat fee associated. Narasa, yes, it is. And that's what Josephine Vita, our ISSO director, will be talking about on May 12th. That's why the first and the second week classes also apply, because there are ways through which you can arrive in the US. We actually had a few of them do that last semester in fall as well. That worked out. What's the impact of COVID on job market in the US for business analytics? Well, again, we had a hit last year, and we are getting back on track rapidly. Students are getting jobs every day. I would say every week, we are approving, from an internship standpoint, about 20 to 30 internships every week. That's a big number. Well, the holds will be removed in the third week of May. We do have a summer intake as well. It starts in the third week of May. You can, of course, again, if you're not able to come here, it's not like that you have to opt for the online medium. Just inform the instructor that you'll not be there and you're going to attend it online. They will definitely talk about how that will look like, how your deadlines and stuff will work out. But that is something that every instructor talks on the first day of classes. We have not heard anything about the spring 2022 GRE waiver, but that's a good question that I will possibly answer during May 12th, or we'll at least take it up. Divya, you can reach out to admission for your fee. You can reach out to admission hyphen fee. Both are singular words, admission hyphen dash fee at utdallas.edu, and they can help you. Okay, we are at the top of the hour here, but let me take the last few questions quickly. Okay, here you go. So the deadlines to registering for classes is always in, a couple of weeks after the start of the semester. But as I said, in the third week of May, we'll drop out a lot of your holds. Unless you have a special case for some reason that the hold has to be there, your holds would be removed. UTD does help with internships and co-ops. Again, for you to start an internship here at UT Dallas, you need to complete 18 credit hours in the program before you can start off. We do help. We help at the program level, at the school level, at the university level to getting employees, employers who want to come and recruit. So you get a lot of support here. Sandeep, you just need to email jsongradvising at UT Dallas if you're deferring for the second time. Explain why you're deferring, and they might consider the case. So if you're uploading your transcripts in through the application, what you are uploading are unofficial copies. The official ones come from the institution. Either the institution sends it to you in a sealed envelope, there are tested copies, the seals are stamped, and then you send that to UTD, where you cannot have a document which is opened by you. That has to be sealed, unless your institution is directly emailing it to admission at UT Dallas. Summer would be similar, Sai, and we are going to, so there is an email that I had promised to send out to these our summer students, which is being vetted by ISSO right now to just make sure they have the right information so that you know what to do about summer. Nasar, if your scores were received after May 1st, they will not, probably the committee will reject it, unfortunately. What are the options for fall 20? Well, again, if you want 100% on-campus experience, then probably you will have to defer. But as I said, a lot of people started the first semester online, and they were able to come down to UT in spring. Somebody is on. If you can mute this. Thank you. Okay. Okay, if you defer your admission, we have already given you admission, so we don't need your scores or anything. A deferment request is just moving your start date to another semester. Rani, if you have the visa and you want to book a ticket, feel free to do that. Again, remember, you can only come to the US after August 1st if you are going for fall 21. So again, if you are enrolling for a course which has a prerequisite, concurrent enrollment can only happen if there's a co-requisite for a course. So let's say a course says either it has to be a prereq or a co-req, means you can take the prereq in the same semester. However, if it only says prereq, prerequisites have to be completed in the semester prior to when you're taking this course. If it is listed as a co-req, then you can do it concurrently. Bhavika, you can send me an email and I can get you the invite for the May 12th webinar. Shivika, you can absolutely join on campus after August 1st. That's when the travel ban is lifted, and after August 1st, you can fly. Again, we'll talk about that as well on May 1st, May 12th. My apologies. Well, if the consulates don't open, and let's say that you don't have your visa in hand, so you can definitely not come to the US. The second thing is if there is any kind of extension on the travel from any of the countries, you'll have to keep a watch on the UTD website. And we from the school would also be sending information out as to when you can really come. No, you don't have to seek any special permission to take courses outside of JSON. Oh, sorry, outside of the program, but inside JSON, you don't need that. You simply just take those courses. Well, if it is within JSON, you don't need any special permission. Just make sure it is only 2 courses. However, if it is outside of JSON, let's say from another school, then you would need permission from our department as well as the department from where you're taking this course. That's when that special permission kicks in. Gautam, it's not offline, it is in person. Yes, it is going to be mostly in person, but we will have courses which will have options through which if you're not able to come to the US, you can still attend them online. And we recently added that owing to all these travel bans and stuff that was happening around the surge in the number of cases, etc. Absolutely. Again, for you to start your internship, what really matters is the number of credit hours that you've finished. As soon as you're done with 18 credit hours, you can start your internship. For us, the too long semester rule doesn't apply because for us, it is about 18 credit hours, completion of 18 credit hours. Well, in the past, there used to be 2 long semesters, but not anymore. Well, if you don't, you are eligible for an internship in the US as long as you have a visa. That's it. Your visa should be there and you should have completed 18 credit hours. Well, if you move to Dallas, you'll have to check about your residency. And the best thing to do is go to residency. Just Google residency UT Dallas. The first link comes up, and that link talks about how you can determine your residency here in Dallas, in Texas. My apologies. If you're on a non-immigrant visa, then most of the times when you move to Texas, you have to stay here for 1 full year before you're considered a Texas resident. We are not forcing anybody to get vaccinated. Total cost for a Texas resident. This again is, so let's take an example. If you take 3 courses, it's about $8,000 per semester for 3 courses. And times 4, so we're looking at somewhere close to $32,000 to $35,000 just in tuition for a Texas resident. If you choose to travel in the middle of the semester, well, again, first of all, if your classes have the ability to let you do stuff online, you can. But why would you want to travel in the middle of the semester? I'm not sure about that. Well, the coursework for Cohort and Flex Data Science is mostly similar, but there could be courses that can be added on Flex side that may not be available in
Cohort, and vice versa. But mostly they're the same courses that we offer. Ganesh, at the moment, 5 days of quarantining is what is required. No, for us, fall and spring are equal because again, and generally speaking, let's say that you are, how do I put it? The number of people who are graduating in fall versus spring versus the jobs that are available, the proportion is same. So it doesn't matter when you graduate. There's nothing which says that if you graduate in spring, there's definitely a job, and if you graduate in fall, there's no job. During an internship, Ashwin, you can definitely pursue online courses. There is a restriction, but most of the times we see students take one course. So if you're enrolled in and this is a normal scenario, if you take 9 credit hours in a semester, one course out of the 3 can be online. If you take 4 courses in a semester, then 2 of the 4 can be online. Well, it takes about 3 to 10 business days for them to really respond to I-20s because of the volume. Austin, a lot of people have stayed back in Dallas, or I would say Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, these areas, because in the last 5 or 6 years, the livability for Texas has just gone through the sky. There are a lot of benefits. Salaries are high. The cost of living is low. The return on investment is high. And people are wanting to make this place their home all the time. Anish, the holds will be dropped, so don't worry about that. The I-20 will have to indicate your start of the program when you will be in the US. So yes, and definitely Josephine will talk about that too. If you're waiting for your I-20, give it about 3 to 10 days, business days. Any availability of getting COVID vaccine? Now, we are definitely trying to make that available for our fall students as well. I cannot promise right now, but the university is very aggressively looking into that option. Ganesh, it all updates every semester, every academic year. So the new catalog will come out in a few weeks. Mostly it is in June that we see that update. Sharon, I think we answered that question about your missing document. We can. If it is in a sealed, Praveen, you can submit the hard copy of your transcript if it is in a sealed envelope, stamped, attested by your university. But I would recommend sending it beforehand, because what if it gets rejected? If it gets rejected, then you'll have to go back and get it again. Better to send it off. You cannot work off campus, Kevin, with ISS's permission. Now, they do have, I think it's an emergency clause there. But again, ISS is the best place to check about that. But you cannot say that you don't have funds right in your first semester and say that I need an off-campus job. The reason is when you showed your financial statements to get your I-20, you proved it to the university that you can sustain yourself. So it really has to be a very extenuous circumstance, and that I think is the best place to take up is ISSO. Last day to apply for Dean's Excellence Scholarship is the regular deadline for every semester. So May 1st of all 21. That is fine, Kaushik. If you have to quarantine afterwards, also that's okay. Gautam, no, you don't need an F1 visa approved. You can start online without a visa as well. Yes, the recording will be available. As an F1 student, once you're here in the US, you need 9 credit hours to maintain full-time enrollment. For domestic students, there is no minimum. It's just one course. We will definitely, in the course of the time that leads up to the semesters, we will talk about some prep for your classes. Okay, we talked about it. I think there are a lot of repeated questions. The difference between dropping and withdrawing. Well, when you drop your classes, you technically drop your whole schedule. And you can withdraw from all but one class. You can do CPT as soon as you're done with your 18 credit hours, and you should have F1 visa, and you should be here in the US. What are the kind of on-campus jobs available? Dining, library, parking. Every department has a student worker need. So those kind of, front desk, or Office of Information Technology, help desk, lots of jobs out there. A lot of students get it. I would say there are hundreds of jobs out there every semester that students take. Okay, I'm going through only the ones that have not been answered. All right, well, at this point of time, again, I do see that there are a few questions that are very specific. What we'll do is we'll take up those questions and probably send out an email kind of putting all these responses together, because a lot of them are repeated questions, but we can bucket them. So when you get the recording of this webinar, you will also get some of these responses that I shared with you today, so that you can all have that documented. But if you have any questions, reach out to me on my email, gaurav.shekhar@utdallas.edu, or you can even send an email to msbuan, msbuan, @utdallas.edu, and we'll be more than happy to help you. But it was definitely a pleasure to be with you guys today to answer your questions, and we look forward to you coming to UT Dallas. And please don't forget to join us on May 12th. It's an important webinar, and a lot of your questions can get answered there. So we hope to see you on that webinar and at UT Dallas soon. Have a good one, folks.